Welcome, guys. Welcome, guys and gals. Glad to have everyone back for the second annual MunkiReport Dev Workshop, or just MunkiReport Workshop, I guess. I know some of you probably have not used MunkiReport before. Some of you may have tested it in the past. And last year, while we did this, we had a lot of fun. A little less organized, perhaps. A lot of us were meeting for the first time in real life, like that day that we kind of put this together. So a little bit more organized, and glad to have you all join us. So first of all, we have some materials and some code, like if you want to kind of supplement the keynote with actually doing some stuff on your computer, you can find the code at this link. There's also a low res version of the keynote I'm doing, and there's a link to a higher res one in the Markdown notes. I think the file you're looking for is outline.md. You can follow along with that if you want, or you can just watch. So basically, what makes us, specifically me, maybe qualified to talk about MunkiReport, and who are we? So my name is John Crane. I've been working with MunkiReport for a few years now. I've developed a couple modules and have attempted to help with documenting the project, and have helped organize some meetups and just in general kind of pushing the project forward. So next, Tuxedo is also going to be talking after me, and he first started working with MunkiReport around 5 years ago, and in that time has become one of the biggest contributors, making over 35 modules and updating tons of things. So if you have a module idea that you want and don't have time to do it, chances are he can get one together in a day or two. So, and finally, we have Aryan. That's the wrong Aryan, though. Actually, this one. So if you follow soccer at all, Aryan Robben plays for the Dutch national team and Bayern Munich. And that was not Aryan that's talking. So Aryan is the primary developer of MunkiReport. He started the project almost 10 years ago. Currently, he's mostly maintaining the core parts of the project, and although he's mostly concerned with stability and security, his favorite thing to do with the project is change everything. So we'll get to hear from him a little later on that. So what are we doing in this workshop, and why are you here? And what if you want to go to the other one because you don't like what we're doing? I'll give you a quick rundown. So we're going to show you kind of what's new with MunkiReport, and a few MunkiReport basics. We're also going to talk about basic customizations, and then move on to talking through the current state of modules, what we have available, and things like that. And then we'll finish up with some more advanced customizations and creating a module perhaps, and possibly some of the DevOps things we've been working on, and then probably have time for some Q&A with everyone. So real quickly, what is MunkiReport, you might ask? Well, we, like many of you, have felt the need for good, simple reporting for our fleets of Macs. We actually all are Jamf users that are presenting here right now, but have found the tools such as Jamf and even Munki can't do everything. Munki obviously doesn't report anything, but so first of all, MunkiReport is a reporting client and a web interface for macOS. It's a modular platform that can be extended by the installation of modules, ironically. So there are many modules bundled with MunkiReport. That's currently around 64, and many more available from other developers. So how do we accomplish this? Well, a client package is installed on clients, either manually by creating and deploying a package, or even with auto package. And then those clients check in to the site and upload any new changes for any of the modules that are installed. And then data is viewed in 3 distinct categories. We have widgets, listings, and client details. So dashboards and reports like you see here, are made of widgets. We can see the default dashboard here with 8 widgets. Reports have configurable widgets. This is the most monkiest report that we have. This is a report of things that Monkey is doing. Widgets can also have pretty good looking graphs, buttons, pie graphs, whatever you can imagine. So moving on, listings are curated views of the database table. So we don't show everything that's in the database, but it's pretty easy to edit that if you don't see what you want on some of those listings. And then finally, we have client details, and that's an up-close view of a single computer record. Okay. Also, all these snapshots are from our work in progress nightly build that you can actually use and see for yourself at our demo site at MunkiReport.azurewebsites.net. So if you wanted to check that out and don't want to kind of mess with your own thing, you can go there and take a look. So what's new with MunkiReport? We want to talk about things we've done over the past year and kind of highlight some of the things maybe underneath the code. So first of all, kind of outward looking change, we have added machine archival. So now if you have machines that get stuck in a closet or a drawer for 2 months, and it shows like that machine has not been updated, well, probably true, it's not in use, so you might want to just archive it for a time and then bring it back out and then get that data. So you don't have to see those in your reports. So we've added the option to do that. Also, a big change to MunkiReport this year, and we talked about this at last year's workshop, is we've removed the need for Monkey. So while we haven't yet called it just report, who knows? We might change the name because Monkey kind of is a little bit of a misnomer right now. So here we can see running MunkiReport with a JAMP policy. So that's one of the options you have, or you can kind of write your own and link into our reporting system. So stepping into the code a little bit, we have added YAML to a lot of the customizations. So simplified what you do when you create a module, when you create a listing or a report. A couple examples of those now. This is a widget. So you can kind of see the data that is in there right now. Just a small example of that. This is actually a listing. So you can see all the columns here. Those are the columns that are going to show up for this listing. And it's pretty easy to change those as well. So those are some of the things that we've been working on over the past year. Moving on, how do you install it? Like, how would you install this on your local machine? That's mostly what we're going to talk about now. As far as how you want to install it in production, there are a lot of options for you. So we can't get into all those. So we want to talk about basic installation right now. Like you could do this on your machine kind of as I talk and whatnot. So we basically have 2 different installation options. The first one is just to download the package. It's a zip file. Running these 7 lines would install it locally and get you a website running on your local machine. This one curls the zip file and unzips it, and then starts it with the built-in PHP server that's built into macOS. The other option, which might be more handy for developers, or if you want to do a little bit more work with the code or check out different builds a little more easier, is the git install. It's kind of recommended for development. It's only slightly different in that it requires the use of Composer, which is a dependency manager for PHP. So instead of just including a bunch of different packages in the main repo, we simply include a JSON file which gives composers its instructions. So here is an example of running this, and this is actually what you'd see. This is a git install of MunkiReport. So right now it's running Composer. You can see it's downloading everything to a new vendor folder. Now, once it finishes installing, it's going to run some database migrations, which is actually creating the database tables in your database file. But by default, this runs in SQLite, but it's recommended to run MySQL if you're going to do this in production. So this is pretty fine for development type work or testing it out. So we can see it finished, and we have our site running with the built-in modules. Now you need data in there. So real quickly, 2 lines to install the client locally on your local machine and then manually submit the data. So real quick, running that. Before we do that, we're going to add a few more modules because we probably want more data than the built-in modules. So the link for pretty much all these commands is in that outline markdown file that we sent out in the GitHub project. So you can see it installed our modules now locally, and now it's running MunkiReport, running the scripts locally on the client, and then once it's done, it figures out what data has changed between what's on the server, and then it will upload that data. So if it's the same, nothing changes, it saves that data and does not take up the bandwidth to upload it. So once it finishes, we'll be able to go back to our website, refresh, and see that the machine is checked in. And we can also see all the modules that we enabled. So what can you do to customize this? So briefly, we're going to talk about a few things, simple things that you can do. So first off, we're going to talk about the dashboard, the main default dashboard. So this again is in a YAML file. And we'll talk through how to edit this. So there is a local folder that's included. What the screen recording is doing right now actually is adding in some fake database records, which allows us to get a little bit better data for our development purposes. So I probably don't want to use that in production. But anyway, there is a local folder included with MunkiReport. In that, you can add your customizations. So we have a dashboards folder. We can take a look at the README and copy out the example dashboard, which is actually the default dashboard. And then in that folder, we can create a new YAML file, copy that in, and then add some of the other widgets that we might want. So I think I've selected registered clients and some of our apps that we want to track. We'll get into where to find these widgets in a moment. So if we go ahead and go back to our site and look at that awesome dashboard, we can see the client registration and our applications down at the bottom. So if that looks pretty good, and you want that to be your default dashboard, you can actually simply change the name of that file to default, and that will become the default dashboard. Now, if you didn't want that, if you want multiple dashboards for security purposes or different looks at your fleet, you can create multiple dashboards as well. So how do you know what widgets we have? Well, we have something called the widget gallery that's available that will show you all the widgets that you have installed, and it will tell you whether they're enabled or not. So if they're inactive, it's a module that you have installed but not enabled. So any of these that you might want to add in, you can kind of search for the ones that you might want. That hardware base model looks pretty good. So just create a new row and then add hardware base model. Now that one's taking up half the screen, so we can find another widget to kind of fill in that gap. So you can have like a full screen or a full width, sorry, half width, third width, and add them that way. So looks like memory looks pretty good too, and I want to see that. So if we scroll back up and go to our dashboard, we can see down at the bottom we have base model breakdown and our memory breakdown. It's pretty fun. All right, the next customization I wanted to talk about is unofficial modules. So we said we have a lot of these modules built in, but let's say you want to either build your own or you want to look at some of the stuff other people have done. So first of all, we have a link to the wiki where we kind of track modules that people have uploaded and put on the wiki. So it's on our module page, and I just have a quick link to it in this screen recording. We can see we have a number of them, and these change quite often. Sometimes the developer just wants help and get another set of eyes on these. A lot of these are used in production for the developer, and as long as you test it out and feel comfortable with it, I don't see a problem with you using any of them. So there's different methods to installing modules as well. We're just going to download this and go back to our local folder and then add that module that was downloaded into that folder. Now the module folder was created in version 5.5, and we've also made it so that any module placed in there is going to be automatically added to MunkiReport. Okay, you used to have to add a search path to be able to use a module, but now all we need to do is go back to our environment file and add that module name in. So we save that and then look at our listings, and we can see that Microsoft Office is there, but we have an error. So we need to update the database so the database knows about all the columns and things that is in this Microsoft Office table. So once we upgrade the database, we can go back and we should see our data, except there's no data there, right? Because we haven't told our client to get the data back into the module. So that's as simple as grabbing those scripts to install the client again manually, and then manually running the runner. So again, I think I sped this up a little bit. That one I did not, this one I did. But it's going to dump the data back in so we can refresh and see a bunch of information on Microsoft Office. And then if we drill into that client, we can see a lot of information that's not shown on the listing about Office. So that's a look at installing other modules. Now, we talked briefly about this environmental file or .env file, and I wanted to talk briefly about a few things that I found to be helpful. Now, first of all, we have a client detail widgets option. So on the client detail page, which I'll show you in a minute, you can reorder all the widgets on that page. It used to be that that page was pretty static, but now we have the option to add client detail widgets and move them around. So if you have a new module you want something to show up on the summary page, you can do that. You can also change the default theme for all your new users if you want something different. We also have lots of links to Monkey Web Admin. If you're using that as well, you can link from clients straight into Monkey Web Admin. And then a couple other options for changing debugging in their site name, which I think a lot of people already do. And then the final one is changing the local directory path. And I enjoy using this because it allows you to put all those local configurations into its own repo and source control that. So, and then when you do upgrade, you don't have to worry about what's going on with that local folder. Here is a look at that. So we can see the client summary page on the left, and we can see that we have the client detail widgets listed, and we can change those as needed. So, and we can see our default theme has changed, site name has changed, all that. So a few other tips and tricks. There is a build directory also in MunkiReport that gives you a lot of tools that are a little bit beta-ish, I would say. Stuff that's kind of hidden, but you can try out, test out, including an upgrade, which is currently the Git method only and has some other requirements. Also has some scripts to make a module, but more on that later. And you can see kind of the rest there. The last one is a change that Tuxedo likes to do to change the default debugging something. And finally, I mentioned source control. I mentioned MySQL for production systems, auto package. And then finally, if something's not right, especially after upgrades, just clear the cache. We kind of say that a lot in our channel for Slack. But that can fix a lot of things after migrations and things like that. So a few of the helpful links from me. Also, Alex has some FileMaker Pro templates out there. If you're a FileMaker Pro user, you can see him watching now. So, also, yeah, check out our demo site if you don't want to build one locally on your machine, but want to check it out. We're slowly making that better, adding more fake data in and all that stuff. So with that, I'm going to attempt to hand this over to Tuxedo to share about modules.
Oh boy.
And I think, Matt, are you around and able to make Tuxedo
This thing
a
on?
host?
Ah.
And we'll grab questions and answers at the end.
I think you buried the lead there, John. What's this thing that Alex did? I mean, he's always doing things. What's this FileMaker template? I mean,
yeah.
I have to invite you to a conference to find out about all these new things. Gee. Okay. Tuxedo, are you ready?
I'll give it a try.
Okay, I'm going to make you host. Promise to give it back.
No. I'm the captain now. Okay.
Aye, aye, my captain.
So we are going to try to share this with that. Share, you should see all that. Which direction are people going? I don't know. We're just gonna.
And just make me the host again.
Loading. Make host again. Change host. Cool. All right, so who's ready to watch this magnificent production of modules? All right, thanks for that, John. Now let's talk about the modules. MunkiReport has over 85 modules, and these are modules that are readily available to install through Composer, and they're hosted on GitHub. And we can take a quick look at the listings here within this instance I have, and we have many, many listings from pretty much every one of those 85 modules that is enabled and installed within this instance. So what if we want to look at our modules, discover new ones, see which ones are enabled, disabled, which ones need updated? Well, for that, we would go and check out the Module Marketplace. The Module Marketplace is a recent addition with version 5.5 of MunkiReport. It's really cool in that it shows everything that has to do with your modules. So here, our applications module, we have it is enabled, it's installed, what version is installed, latest version, if there's an update available, and ARD, as you can see, does indeed have an update available, who the maintainer is, whether or not this module is being overridden by a custom location module, if it is a core module, how many times it's been downloaded within the past month, when it was downloaded last, when it was last updated, where the module files physically live, and you can click on that button or that link and it'll take you right to the repo. So it's basically the module marketplace. All this information is pulled pretty much live and processed on the web browser itself. So we can go ahead here and click on the little applications button and it'll tell us, okay, the applications module has one client tab, one listing, and one widget. It's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and cancel and close that. Let's find a module which we do not have installed. And we'll have to go show all the modules, find one we don't have installed. All right, Firewall. This is a great example. So you can see here we have Firewall listed twice. The first one is installed and enabled, and it is within the MunkiReport repo. The second one is within the Tuxedo repo. They're both the same version, and the reason for this being is the Firewall module got rolled into core or into the MunkiReport repo, and it's no longer needing to be maintained within the Tuxedo repo, and it'll probably be removed here shortly. But let's go ahead and click on the Firewall repo that we don't have installed. And we can look at to install this module, run the following composer, and it shows us how to install it quickly and easily using composer. And for more information, you can click on the link and it'll take you right to the wiki on how to install it. We can just go ahead and close that. And that's a pretty quick overview of the module marketplace and everything within it. It's really cool, really fun. And we can see supported OS. There's a new update for that. TCC has a new update, so we can go ahead and install those. And that would be the module marketplace. Now let's take a look at some of the more major updates to the modules that have happened within the past year. The first one would be supported OS. Supported OS has basically gotten completely rebuilt from the ground up. No longer do you have to go through and update the whole module just to get a little file change here and there. No more of that. It all automatically updates what the latest version is. It checks the GitHub repo and says, okay, the latest version is now 10.16. 10.16 is now updated, and all these Macs support 10.16. And in addition to that, we now have what the shipping version is. So these two MacBooks shipped with 10.12.5. It's pretty nice. And we also have a little admin tab for supported OS. So we can see it was last updated on June 8th, and it pulled it from GitHub. And that's what the current OS version is within the cache file. Now, in the event it cannot talk to GitHub, be it your network settings don't allow it, or GitHub is down at the time, or the file isn't working properly, or something crazy like that, it'll use the local version that is installed within the module itself. And then we can tell it to update it. And there we have it. We have updated just now from GitHub. And we can click on that, and I think it'll take us to the GitHub page. It'll show us where it lives within GitHub. We can click process all machines, and this will basically go ahead through. I only had 2 machines, so it went quickly, but let's do that again. Cool. And it goes through nice and quickly, and it processes all the machines I have within my MunkiReport instance. And because I only have those 2 machines, it went through quickly, and it will go through and it will update every single machine in there. So whenever Apple releases 10.16, I update the OS data, which usually happens once a week as machines check in, and then process all machines. It will go through and reprocess all the machines. Even the ones that haven't checked in for 2 years will know this is what the latest version that those 2-year-old machines can run. And moving on from there, let's take a look at printers. Now the printers module got a full rewrite. Now initially the listing doesn't show too much of a difference. We do see some things here that are changed. We have an estimated job count, so we can see how many pages that printer is printing. And we can go ahead here and click on Yoda's MacBook. All right, so we have a lot more information now, mostly like driver information and like if certain settings or abilities are supported or not supported by that printer. And it's just more and more information about the printers. So the printers module did get a big overhaul. It collects a lot more information. And then moving on from there, we can take a look at the Bluetooth. So now we have two Bluetooth listings. We have Bluetooth and Bluetooth devices. This is the third big rewrite of the module, and this is hopefully the last big rewrite of it. It collects much more information. Previously, it would only collect information such as the battery percentage and a few bits of information about like your magic keyboard or your magic trackpad or your magic mouse. That was it. So now we can click on Bluetooth and we'll see Yoda's MacBook. So we know Yoda's MacBook. There's its Bluetooth MAC address. Power is on, it's not discoverable. It supports low energy, AirDrop probably supports it. It's a newer Mac, but it didn't show up. And then AirDrop and handoff and information about Bluetooth on that Mac. So this is great because now we know what Macs have Bluetooth, is Bluetooth is on or off, or we no longer are limited to knowing what the battery percentage is of Yoda's trackpad. We know all that stuff now. So let's go and look at the Bluetooth devices. So we have the device name didn't show up here correctly, but it would normally say something like Yoda's trackpad or Yoda's mouse, something like that. And we would see manufacturing information, if it's connected. And of course, we don't see their name and everything because it's not connected. But that's what we would see. And let's take a look at the client listing. So it's basically the same information, just displayed differently for that single client. And that was certainly a fun module to rewrite. Now, another module that got rewritten was the Apple Remote Desktop module. This module was a fairly old module, and it has been completely rewritten from the ground up to collect much more information. Now, fortunately for Yoda and Lando, their ARD is turned off, but we can see, hey, it's turned off. If it wasn't turned off, we would see what machines have been connecting to it. We see VNC is not on, directly logins are not enabled, and more information about ARD within those machines. We can click on the client listing or client tab button, and it's pretty much the same information right there. And Smart Stats. It's the same old Smart Stats, which has been around since 2017. The only difference is it is now written in Python, so it collects all the drives instead of timing out and only collecting the first 2 or 3 drives. And looking here, we can see Yoda's MacBook has a lot of smart errors on that old Seagate Momentous drive. So we should probably switch that out at some point. It's an older drive for sure, and it has been on for a very long time. So it definitely needs to come out and be replaced. And then the Geekbench module. This module was completely updated to be more in line with how modules should interact with outside resources. So we can see Yoda and Lando, they're the same MacBook. They're 13-inch mid-2017 MacBook. We have our samples, our OpenCL, how fast they are. So we can see how they all compare. And there's also an admin tab. So we can go ahead and take a look at the Geekbench. We have 2 buttons very similar to supported OS. We have refresh, cache JSON files. And now normally MunkiReport will automatically do this about once a week, but you can force it to update it. So it will go out to Geekbench, it will pull down the latest JSON files, cache them within the database, and then use those files within the database to process the Macs as they are coming in, be it once a week, once a day, to have their information updated. And also you have a pull all Geekbench scores button, so you can click on that, and it processes all the Macs within your instance right away. And let's take a look at the Wi-Fi module. This was my first module I ever wrote, and it was pretty clunky. It wasn't very good with what it collected. It got the job done, but it did it in a slow way, which I didn't like, so I decided to completely rewrite it. And the listing shows pretty much the same information, but we can go ahead and take a look at Lando's MacBook, and it shows, of course, the same information. So it is all there. It just uses much better methods to get at that data and to show it. Then lastly, we have the Jamf module. So the Jamf module has been around for a year or 2 at this point, but it was never really streamlined. It was kind of rigid, and it did have some bugs in there. John Crane helped me find a whole bunch of bugs. We squashed them. We got the module updated for version 5 MunkiReport, and I'm pretty happy to say that it's working pretty well. Now, we're not going to go too in-depth into the Jamf module because it's already been out there. So moving on from the Jamf module, we can move into another module which is similar to the Jamf module, which is the extension attributes module. This module is interesting in that it brings extension attributes to MunkiReport. For those of you who don't know what extension attributes are, these are little XML files that contain scripts or other little data points that can be used to extend how Jamf collects and shows data. So by default, Jamf may not be able to show you color the MacBook is. So you can write extension attribute to collect what color the MacBook is, and you can show it and see it within the Jamf view. Now, MunkiReport pretty much already collects everything you could ever want to know about your Mac, but sometimes it may not collect everything. So here we have 3 examples. The first example is GPU. We want to know what GPU or GPUs our Mac has within it. So our name is GPU, and there is the result. So it contains those 2 chipsets. And airport power is 10.1. I think that was left over from testing because that doesn't make much sense. Then down there at the bottom is another super cool one. That one is a log-based extension attribute. So it basically shows the last, I think it's 20 lines of a log. Now, these can be targeted by machine. They can be targeted by fleet-wide. MunkiReport is able to use and process the same XML files that Jamf uses for its extension attributes. You can either have something put the extension attribute into the MunkiReport cache file itself, and then MunkiReport will just ignore that, or you can write your own extension attribute XML and put it onto the client, and then MunkiReport will run it on the client. It is run as root, but it is done securely using the exact same checks that Monkey and MunkiReport use to verify that the script within it is owned properly, so it runs properly. And otherwise, we could have security implications which make everything very bad. So that is extension attributes. I would suggest go ahead and checking out the README within the module to see how to create them. They're pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and they're super powerful. Sky's the limit. You can literally have up to 16 megabytes worth of information per result. I don't recommend that, but I'm not stopping you from doing that. All right, now let's take a look at the users module. This module was written to replace the local admin module. And let's go ahead and look at user accounts. So here we have a basic overview of our accounts on our 2 MacBooks. We can see information on Lando, his user ID, password hint, home directory, primary group ID, if they're an admin, and other services they may have access to. Let's go ahead here and click on Lando's MacBook Pro. And we can see all sorts of information about his account and how it's set up. Then another module which people have been requesting for a few years now, which I finally really looked into making a thing, working it, and getting it going, is the TCC module. This module is super cool, but it does come with some caveats. So we can look here at Lano's MacBook, and he has a bunch of things. So Terminal has access to calendar, address book. Zoom has microphone and camera access when it was modified or granted, when it was prompted, like who has that access, so it's the Lando. And Dropbox has global accessibility for it looks to be. Interesting. Now, this module, the caveats I explained earlier or mentioned earlier is on 10.14 and above, you do need to allow the MunkiReport script access to all files on the client. Otherwise, it won't work. It'll just error out and you'll see nothing. And of course, you need to do that using a PPPC profile. Once you have that all set up, MunkiReport will start reporting in all sorts of information about TCC on your client. Unless you're running 10.13 and older, in which case it'll show everything right away. And the last one is the firewall module. This module is just over a year old, and it contains information on how the firewall is set up on the Mac. It's pretty simple. There isn't much to it, but it's a pretty nice little basic module. And with all that, I do believe we conclude all the information that there is about the modules and how they operate within MunkiReport.
Awesome. Thank you, Tuxedo. It's almost like you're really with us.
Yeah, I'm right here all the time.
Aryan? You're on mute. No.
Not anymore.
Ah, that lovely voice.
Thank you, Tuxedo and John Crane. They were really awesome presentations. I hope I can tell you something interesting as well. John Crane was bugging me about my presentation for a long time, and I think I just finished it an hour ago. So I have some time issues.
You're not supposed to be giving away all the secrets. Just in time production.
Yeah, that was my joke.
I made you the host so you can share your screen, and
right.
You can give me host back after if you want me to play with admitting people, which is fun.
So I think I need to remove this. I can share that. Right. Does everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. All right. I know this is a workshop, and but I also wanted to do a small talk, so I combined the two. So it's like a quick talk and a workshop in one. I want to tell you about two topics I want to cover today.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone. But the times they are changing. Some writers and critics who prophesize.
So two topics, change and time, they're intertwined, and I want to take you along with the thoughts I had on these two subjects. First, we're going to talk about change. John Crane already mentioned that I like to change things, and I always hope I change things for the better, but sometimes there are pressing reasons to change things, and I want to talk about that. The most important thing to change things are really concerning security, and these changes come from the project, but they also come from outside sources. So we run on PHP, and of course that's also a project that needs to take into account that there are security concerns. So they're constantly updating, so we need to update as well. And the same goes for a lot of dependencies we use. They get updated, so we need to update as well. So this is a kind of a driving force for constantly updating, and it's of course something that every project needs to take into account, and that's why sometimes people abandon projects, I think, because it's never finished. One of the major security things that could happen is that somebody finds out that there's something really, really wrong with your project. So I received a letter in March from a researcher from Datadog who said they they did an audit on MunkiReport, and they found several critical errors, failures that would really lead to information disclosure if someone would take advantage of those. And it scared me to shit. I was really, I thought, oh no, now all hell's broken loose, but I stepped back and I try to think of what we should do, and then I realized it was actually a good thing that we got informed in such a nice way about the issues that were present. So I reached out to the collaborators, to the people who work on the MunkiReport. I've been working on MunkiReport for advice, and we got the researcher from Datadog into the same channel. We created a private channel for that. And we started working on mitigation. So I think within a couple of days, most of the most pressing issues were already resolved. And we sent it out for testing. And then we released a new version of MunkiReport with lots of exclamation marks and warnings. And then we try to inform everyone about the changes and about the risks, and that we try to push everyone to upgrade. And I actually had a very good feeling about this. So I wanted to share the things I took away from this whole experience, and the things we could have done better and we may do better in the future. And that's to have a way to contact you or your project for responsible disclosure. A GitHub issue is not a very good place to put in a critical vulnerability, because everybody will read it, so you want to have a nice way to do it. So we set up a secure Google group for these kind of messages. To have a plan on how to handle security issues. I never really thought about those. I thought we will just handle them when they come along. But if you already have a plan that will really save you some headaches, you don't have to lie awake in the night. Datadog helped us also obtain CVE numbers, vulnerability numbers, which actually are a good thing. I always thought if you in the CVE list you did something wrong, but actually it's a good thing, because it's a way of communicating your vulnerabilities, and when you get them, you don't need to put in what's wrong with your project right away. So you just reserve the numbers. People can see there's something wrong, but I don't know what it is. And then when you have your act together, then you can publish the correct links to your project to explain why people need to upgrade. And the last thing I took from it is that that it's very good to stay positive. Don't let your head hang down because something was wrong. Every software has bugs, and it's just the way the world works. And I think it's actually not a bad experience to go through this, and I felt very positive coming out of it. I've been looking into projects that could help organize a proper response, or maybe help you organize, maybe even let people test for vulnerabilities for your project. And the security lab from GitHub is actually quite good, and HackerOne has a community edition. HackerOne is a company that big companies can hire to test their, like pen test their stuff, but they also have a community edition for people running open source projects, and you can get their tools for free, which actually also is quite nice. I opted not to go into the route because I don't think we're organized enough to do something with them, but I think it was really cool. So, on the subject of change, I like to change things because it's fun to change things. And that's one of the reasons why things are sometimes changing, where everybody says, why change that? But I think it's fun, and I always learn new things when I try to change things. And usually it just starts up with an idea, and I have a feature branch, and then sometimes it goes nowhere and just delete it, and sometimes it's something nice, and then I'll merge it with the project. And I actually have to say that I ruined some of the things John Crane presented just 20 minutes ago, because I merged something with the with branch that made some of the commands not work anymore. Sorry, John. But I'll make up for it because I'm gonna show how it's done now. The other thing I wanted to, and this is maybe kind of a stretch, but I was really, the word time came up all the time. Also because we're in different time zones. For you, for most of the people, it's morning. For me, it's evening. It's sometimes hard to collaborate because we're in different time zones. And someone told me they have a clock on their desk in Amsterdam time, so they know when I'm awake. Which is actually, I thought it was quite cool. Right. So I had some time issues lately. I was actually going to present on how to create a module in 10 minutes. I was always also wanted to talk about navigating time zones, which I just touched on. How to make a presentation on time is also a very pressing issue, but I made it. And most people always ask me about the future of MunkiReport, so we're going to touch on that later as well. So now we're going to do some workshop kind of stuff. So we're going to create a module in 10 minutes. And I thought it would be easy, and I tried to do it. And I thought everyone can make a module in 10 minutes because we have a script. And if you're just a little bit knowledgeable about computers, you should be able to do this. Of course, there are people who create a module in 10 days, or maybe not even that. I'm sorry, I found this one. Of course, there are people who create 10 modules in a day, which is also very impressive. But I don't think they used the method I used. And I tried to do a screen recording of me doing a module in 10 minutes. And so I started the screen recording. I opened up the VI editor. I thought I'm going to redo a module that John Crane made. It's called the time, he called it a time module. I'm going to call it a time machine module. It's just collecting time zone information from the computer. And I thought it was going well, but when I stopped the screen recording, I had to, I came to the conclusion that it took me more than an hour and I wasn't even finished. So creating a module quickly was actually not that easy. And I should know how to do these things. So I cheated because I copied some code from John Crane's module and I still couldn't make it in an hour. So I figured I needed to cheat more. So I took my time, instead of making this presentation, I took my time to create a command line tool to make modules even more efficiently. The command line tool is called please. It's written in PHP. It's actually, it comes from another project called Symfony. It will replace, I think, most of the MunkiReport management scripts. That was another reason for me creating this. I looked in we have a build directory, and that's just a grab bag of scripts. And some of them are shell scripts, some of them are PHP scripts, some of them are Python scripts. It was just a mess, and I thought we could do better. So I ran with this project, and it actually went somewhere, and I got enthusiastic about it, and I started hacking on it, and I was hacking on it until it was way beyond bedtime, and I was still working on it, I think today, but it's almost finished. And I want to show you how it works. So I don't think we were really in sync with our presentation. So I forgot that John already told about how to set up a development environment. There's also a wiki page telling you about how to do it. So we're going to skip that thing. So I'm going to show you, and I assume you already have the development environment set up. And you're on the latest work in progress branch, how to create a module in 2 seconds. I pre-recorded this because I think, well, Matt made us really scared that everything would break down during this, during the presentation. So I think better safe than sorry. So now we're going to use the command line to create a module. I've loaded up MunkiReport PHP in the Visual Studio Code. The default location for modules is here in local modules, and we're going to start off by running please make module. There's a nice option called no interaction, and it's just going to run and create a module, and there it is. I think it's less than 10 seconds, 2 seconds. I think it's more, I think it's even less than a second. So here's our cool I love MunkiReport module. And we can run this module if you want to see what's in it. I can tell you now it's not that much, but it is a module. So we go to .env, and we're going to add the module to the module list. That is not in here, but there's a default, so we're going to add it to the default. I'm very good at copy pasting, right? So here's our I love MunkiReport module, and these are just the standard modules that you get installed when you run MunkiReport. Save the file. Just reload the interface. You don't need to restart anything, and already we have our I love MunkiReport listing here. Oh, I forgot something. So we did create the module, but we forgot to create the migrations. So this is probably why it takes 2 seconds. So we have to do please migrate. There we go. We run it again, and here is the I love MunkiReport module, and I think we have a nice reports as well. So we've got these widgets. There are no clients yet, but we're going to fix that, and we're going to fix it in the following way. We have also a nice database seed command, which will create fake database records, which is nice for testing. So we can just reload the interface, and we see we have this, I don't know what it is, probably it's Latin, values in our field 1, 2, 3, that are the default fields that you get with the I love MunkiReport module. Right, so that was the MunkiReport make a module in 2 seconds. I think it's a little bit more, and I think I need to add the create migrations command at the end. That will even skip the extra step we had to do. But this is a really boring module, and nothing special happened here, and this is not what you want to show to your parents. So I decided to make use the same thing, but then make something better. And we're also gonna do something nice for Matt, just to thank him about organizing this conference. And this is also pre-recorded. It's not very long. I think it's about, I think it's under 10 minutes. So please bear with me and look at the presentation on how to create the time zone module in the new style. So We're ready for our next project. I've deleted the database and I've run the migrations again, so everything is nice and clean. We're going to start the new project. It's called time zone, but first we're going to do something else. We're going to rename the please command, because someone was already complaining that we have to be polite to MunkiReport, and we're going to rename it to medx. So now we can run, now we can say medx make module. It's interactively, so it's going to still ask you a couple of questions, and then it's going to generate the module. So this is the location, this is the default is fine. The name of the module, we're going to call it time zone. We need 4 database fields, so we're going to put in 4. The English description of field 1 is going to be time zone. This is the suggested name for the table in the database, which is fine. The type of the field is string. We want an index, yes. And we want a widget. A scroll box is also a good idea. This is a short table showing what it's gonna generate. There's no way to redo this. But you have a nice view on what is going on behind the scenes and what it's going to generate. So you have to start over if it's not what you want. So field 2 is going to be network time server. Name is fine. This is also going to be a string. We want it indexed, and we're going to do a bar graph. So field 3 is going to be network time enabled. This is nice. This is going to be a boolean, so this is number 3. We want an index and we want a widget. For a boolean, it's going to be a button widget, and we will see what that will be when we're done. Field number 4 is going to be auto time zone. The name of field is fine. This is also going to be a boolean. We want an index, and we also want the button widget. Now it's asking us if we store more than 1 row per machine. So, but this is just 1 row of data, so the answer is no. And this is the proposed database layout, and it looks fine to me. So we're going to say continue. So what it did is it creates the time zone module here with all the files that are needed. We want to add some stuff here. The time zone shell script, which runs on the client, is now it's a boilerplate script. So we're gonna copy over the script that John Crane did for his module. So we're going to the John Crane time GitHub page. Check in scripts. This is the script he has. The structure looks very much like the structure we created, so we're just gonna copy out this part. Gonna paste it in here. So the variables are a little bit different than John Crane used, so we're just gonna copy them over. So time zone is gonna be called time zone. Network time server is going to be network time server, and here's also 2 instances. Network time enabled is network time status, and auto time zone is auto time zone. And now we can delete these. So it's nice, and everything looks fine. Gonna save this. Actually, we're not gonna run this script because I have to. I would have to download it on my machine and then run it. But we're doing it a little bit differently. because we're gonna use the fake data from the factory. This is a project from, I think, an Italian guy called Frasinotto. If you go to the website, you get all the possible fake data that you can generate with this project. But for now, we're going to use time zone, which will use a whole list of time zones to generate random time zones. The network time server is a server, so we're going to use domain name here. And Boolean is fine, so I think we're set. I see that we also have to enable the module in our env file, so it's called time zone. I'm gonna save this as well, and I think we're done. That's just one thing we need to do. That's just generate database tables for this new module. If you go to the web browser and we reload it, you see there's a time zone listing, but it says it has no table called time zone, so that's what we're going to fix now. Next. So we run the please. Oh, MedX. Migrate to another country. Right. The table is generated, so if we reload this page, it's fine. So it's not complaining anymore, but there's no data in it. And this is the next one. We're going to do MedX database seed. The seed command can take a couple of options. So the number of records, we're going to do 1000. And the language in which you want the records created, and there's a nice French-Canadian locale for this, so we're going to use that one, and we're going to run it. Maybe 1000 was a little bit over the top, but hell, it's Wednesday, why not? And we're done. And now when we look, we see we have all kinds of nice data in it. We see the time zones are filled with very nice time zones, and the rest of the data is also finished, so we're good. Now we can take a look at the report. So here are the widgets, here are our time zones, so we've got the time zones here in this scroll box. I opted to put the network time servers in a bar graph widget, which can be very long if you have a lot of data points, which you can see here. And here we can see the two button widgets that show if the auto time zone is on or off, and if network time is enabled or not. So we can take a look here. We'll check if we have, because this is a French, right, so Xavier is there. He has a MacBook, and we can check out the time zone status for Xavier. And I see he's in Hong Kong, so I think he already migrated. Well, this was a very short and quick overview of how to create a time zone module. Of course, there's lots of customizations you may have to do to get your data into the proper format, but I think it will help create modules and have something to work with, instead of having to look at all these very complicated file structures and difficult files. So John Crane did a very nice blog post on how to create the MunkiReport modules. I think he has to upgrade it a little bit, but it gives you, at least it gives you a nice overview of how the modules stick together, how they're constructed, and how the different parts work. You can check it out here. It's in 6 parts, and it's actually very, very, very good. So I think I covered most of the things I had to do in time. There's just one thing I want to say about the future of MunkiReport. I don't know how I am with time, but probably we'll see. So I looked it up, and in like 1,000 years BC, there was the Mesopotamians, and they looked at their thought about their time. It was that you always look back and you walk to the future backwards. So you look at the past and you don't know what's coming, and that's how I feel about this project as well. And there's always nice surprises if you don't look back. So a couple of weeks ago, I bumped into. I was walking backwards and I bumped into Tim Perfect, who managed to incorporate MunkiReport in MDS, and I think he's going to talk about this after we're done. So I just want to say thanks to all the collaborators and for Matt for making this awesome platform available. Thank you.